and welcome to CC News. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Julianne.
And today's person of interest is Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy, born November 24th, 1946, murdered at least 36 women and girls and was a serial rapist. Ted was known for his charm and intelligence, which is what attracted his victims. Theodore Ted Bundy was born a secret shame. His mother, Eleanor, was 22 and unmarried when she had him, so she brought him to live with her parents in Philadelphia to hide the fact that he was an illegitimate child. Bundy was raised under the impression his mother was his sister. From appearances, it seems Bundy had a content, working-class family. At the age of 3, Bundy became fascinated with knives. As a teenager, Bundy enjoyed looking through other people's windows and consistently stole things he wanted from other people.
While attending the University of Washington, Bundy fell in love with a beautiful, wealthy woman from California. Their breakup absolutely devastated him, and many of Bundy's victims resembled her. Bundy often raped his victims before beating them to death. Ted started killing around 1974. At this time, he changed himself to be a confident, more active person, which attracted his victims. The exact number of women Bundy has killed will never be known. He often lured his victims by asking them for help or pretending to be in trouble. Bundy was arrested for kidnapping Carol Durant in 1975, and 2 years later he was indicted on murder charges on the death of a young woman from Colorado. In 1977, Bundy escaped from prison again. In 1978, he broke into Chi Omega sorority at Florida State University and attacked 4 girls, and 2 of them were killed. 1978 was Bundy's last year on his murderous rampage. His last crime that was committed was when he raped and killed a 12-year-old girl.
Ted Bundy chose his victims 2 ways. He would either stalk his target or he would see someone that immediately caught his eye. He was attracted to girls with a small frame and middle-parted hair.
And how many times do you think he took you to unconsciousness and then brought you back?
Probably at least 5, maybe 6.
Really? And did you get the sense that he knew how far to go without killing you?
Yeah, I think it was a game.
And then what happened?
The last time I was coming from unconsciousness to consciousness lying on the picnic table. He was slapping my face again, trying to wake me up again. And he said, good girl, you don't want to die yet. Don't die on me yet, because you would miss the best part. And he grabbed me by my boot to the end of the picnic table, pulled my pants down and raped me. And just as that was finishing, he leaned forward again and put his hands around my throat and was choking me again. And at that point, I didn't struggle. I decided I was dead. I was just going to wait until it was over.
When he raped you, was he quiet? Was he talking?
He was silent. All I remember is his eyes were just black and evil. The next thing I knew, I was laying on the ground, and I was sort of surprised when I came to again. And it's pitch dark, and he was standing by the open door, fiddling with something in the back seat, like 30 feet away from me. And I didn't really plan anything like a great escape, but adrenaline was running and I just jumped and ran. I didn't run very far because my pants were in a wad around my ankles. I tripped after just 1 or 2 steps, but fortunately or luckily or intervention from above or something, I fell into a fast-moving mountain river that swept me away from my attacker and probably saved my life.
What helped to incriminate Ted was that some of his victims escaped. For example, Carol Durant's testimony helped convict him of kidnapping, which in turn gave the police more time to build other murder cases against him. Also, from the Chi Omega murders, the bite marks of the victims were used to match Ted, and he was given the death penalty for these 2 murders. One famous quote of Bundy's was, "We serial killers are your sons, we are your husbands, we are everywhere, and there will be more of your children dead tomorrow." Ted Bundy showed that a serial killer can be the guy next door, totally normal on the outside.
You know, if I were able to ask you the questions that are being asked out there, one of the most important as you come down to perhaps your final hours, Are you thinking about all those victims out there and their families who are so wounded, you know, years later, their lives have not returned to normal. They will never return to normal.
Absolutely.
Are you carrying that load, that weight? Is the remorse there?
Again, I know that people will accuse me of being self-serving, but we're beyond that now. I mean, I'm just telling you how I feel. But through God's help, I have been able to come to the point where much too late, but better late than never, feel the hurt and the pain that I am responsible for. Yes, absolutely. In the past few days, myself and a number of investigators have been talking about unsolved cases, murders that I was involved in. And it's hard to talk about all these years later because it revives in me all those terrible feelings and those thoughts that I have steadfastly and diligently dealt with, I think successfully, with the love of God. And yet it's reopened that, and I felt the pain and I felt the horror again of all that. And I can only hope that those who I've harmed, those who I've caused so much grief, even if they don't believe my expression of sorrow and remorse, will believe what I'm saying now, that there is loose in their towns and their communities people like me today whose dangerous impulses are being fueled day in and day out by violence in the media in its various forms, particularly sexualized violence. And what scares me, and let's come into the present now, because what I'm talking about happened 20, 30 years ago, that is, in my formative stages. And what scares and appalls me, Dr. Dobson, is when I see what's on cable TV, some of the movies, I mean, some of the violence in the movies that come into homes today with stuff that they wouldn't show in X-rated adult theaters 30 years ago. This stuff,
The slasher movies that you're talking about.
that stuff is, I'm telling you, from personal experience, the most, that is graphic violence on screen, particularly as it gets into the home to children who may be unattended or unaware that they may be a Ted Bundy who has that vulnerability to that predisposition to be influenced by that kind of behavior, by that kind of movie, that kind of violence.